Hi everybody, a very warm welcome this Friday lunchtime to everyone from me here on the unceded lands of Aboriginal people, lands walked by the Yagara and Turrbal folk for many, many thousands of years. My name is Gillian Gardner. I'm the Executive Director of Innovation Operations with Advance Queensland. And I also acknowledge that this week marked the 15th anniversary of the Day of the National Apology by former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, who delivered that apology to Australia's Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people for the many injustices that resulted from past government policies, and particularly their impact on the stolen generation. Today, we are here to talk through a very exciting new initiative, which is being delivered under our recently released roadmap, the Advanced Queensland Innovation for a Future Economy 2022-2032 roadmap, which sets out the direction and key priority outcomes and initiatives for the next phase in our innovation journey. The roadmap targets increasing startup and business survival rates and expanding the participation of priority cohorts in the Queensland innovation ecosystem, and women are one of those priority cohorts. Our latest Backing Female Founders initiative is delivering $3 million over the next 3 years to support female founders at the different stages of their entrepreneurial life cycle to develop and grow scalable and globally successful businesses out of Queensland. The Backing Female Founders program builds on the first phase of the Female Founders program, which was launched back in May 2019, and it provides a suite of initiatives to grow and scale Queensland innovation businesses founded by women. To date, more than 1,550 female founders have benefited from the program. It's intended to assist female founders at all the different stages of their life cycle and incorporates several initiatives to address barriers in the youth, startup, scale-up and global stages of the innovation pipeline. But now down to business. What you're here to hear today is Tina Hill to talk more about the Female Founders Co-Investment Fund. I'll pass you across to Tina now, who'll provide some of the key information and address specific questions about the initiative. Thanks, Tina.
Thanks, Gigi. Welcome everybody. My name is Tina Hill. I'm the manager of the Female Founders Program at Advance Queensland. I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to speak to you all today. We have about 25 minutes for the rest of this webinar, and we're going to provide an overview of the Female Founders Co-Investment Fund. We have several pre-submitted questions which we'll be addressing throughout the webinar, and we'll also try to address the questions that come through the live Q&A as they come through the system. So please feel free to post questions if you have any as they come up. The Female Founders Co-Investment Fund is a new pilot fund from the Advance Queensland, the approach of which is completely new, and we're really excited to bring it to you today. We're here to support the incredibly innovative Queensland female founders. The fund aims to support female founders at a very important moment in their growth journey, at the point of investment and when they're about to secure their first professional capital raise, when they've exhausted all sources of funding from their friends and families and accelerator programs, and they're beginning to professionalise their capital raising journey. So we want to support that moment. The fund will provide grants of between $50,000 and $200,000 to innovative businesses who have secured a lead investor for their pre-seed or seed investment round. And we're looking to increase their deal so that you can bring on new investors before the closing of that raise. Current data from the innovation ecosystem shows that not only is this difficult for all founders, it's even more difficult for female founders. Women-led businesses statistically receive lower valuations, smaller check sizes, and sometimes struggle to secure deals without a male co-founder. We also know that they receive less deals and less dollars overall. It's our intent that by providing grants to female-founded businesses as non-dilutive capital, founders will be able to overcome those barriers and secure adequate investment with new investors, shifting the dial on where startup investments currently sit for women. So we'd like to run through some of the key eligibility for this program, and hopefully we'll address a lot of your questions as we go. So who's eligible for this program? We need to note that while the program guidelines were released at the end of last year, there have been a few necessary updates. So please make sure if you are planning to apply that you check out the current guidelines that are on our website. The program is designed to support Queensland-based businesses that have an ABN and registered for GST. The applicants must be 100% female-founded business at the point of incorporation. So this means when the business was established, all the founders must be women or women identifying persons. The fact that this criteria is very tight, very specific is noted, but the purpose of this pilot, we're focusing on the smallest margin of female founders who need the most help. So remember, this is a pilot program and future iterations of this program might reconsider this definition, but that's what we're using for this pilot. The other thing to note is that as well as being 100% female founded at the point of incorporation, at the point of application for this program, the company must still be majority female owned. So that means that it does exclude 50-50 male-female partnerships, and the businesses still need to be owned and run by women. So the current owners do not have to be the same as the founders, but we still need to have that majority ownership by women. So we're also looking to support startups that are less than 50 full-time equivalent employees, and they're not subsidiaries of larger organisations as well. We're also trying to, as a program that's designed to suit startups that are raising that first professional capital raise. It's designed for companies that haven't raised more than 500,000 at the point of application, and that could be through other capital raising activity, grant funding, or accelerators. So it's really to support that first raise, and it's to support the ones that need the most help. So that's worth noting as well. It's also not open to those who've received Ignite Ideas funding. It's fantastic for those who have received Ignite Ideas for where they're at, but unfortunately that does exclude eligibility for this particular program. I'm just going to talk about the actual requirements for the moment that you apply. So this is for when you're undertaking a pre-seed or seed capital raise from an approved eligible investor. Now that is a sophisticated investor that has a specific definition according to the ATO definitions, and that's all the links are in the guidelines. So please make sure you check what that means. It can't be an associate of you like a personal friend or family member. We wanted to make sure that you understand that the moment that you apply is when you are undertaking a raise, but it has not been completed. So that's a really important distinction. When you apply, you would have an investment document or an investment term sheet or a safe note or a convertible note from a committed investor. That is executed, it's countersigned, you've both agreed to the terms. However, the actual shares haven't been transferred, the funding hasn't been transferred, and the deal is not closed. So what we're hoping to do here is support you through applying, seeking provisional approval to then use that leverage to raise more money, secure more investors, build the round, and then hopefully this government backing will support you to close that round. And that's when we think that's really a vital sort of incentive for female founders who are raising capital. So I think it's important to note that when you're raising the money and when you are undertaking that capital raise, that you are talking to investors and building that investment opportunity for your business, and you should apply at the moment when you've got that key lead investor. That's the most important moment for this program. So I'll just talk through a little bit about the program structure. The program is going to remain open at all times, so you can apply at the moment that suits you. So that's a really great sort of opportunity for you to apply when you're ready. So there's no closing dates, and the program will be closed once all funding is allocated. And if that happens, when that happens, we will notify you via the website. So once you apply, what we ask you to do is make sure that you have your documents in order, including a letter of support from your investor. And your investor will vouch for you, your business, the investor will also explain that they're backing you, that they believe in your business plan, and that they confirm that the company is 100% female founded. So that's a really important endorsement as well. The application form is going to ask you for some very specific details. So you need to provide your business plan. That can be enclosed within a pitch deck. The details of that lead investor, or if there are other investors at the moment of application, you can include those details as well. You provide your current investment documents that are countersigned and dated, and profiles of you and your company, your key personnel, just to explain who you are in your business. And that letter of support is really important as well. So those are the key documents that we require at the point of application. The application is checked for eligibility. There is a commercial due diligence process that checks the terms of the deal, and that will be done as an independent process. And really what that is about checking that the deal is a good deal for you and your business, that it's going to provide founder-friendly terms that will support you in your growth plan, and also will allow you to have 12 months runway, that you're going to have the money that you need to actually undertake the plan you've got in place. So the application is also assessed against some 3 key criteria. All of this is in the guidelines, so don't worry if you aren't sure, it's all there. Organisational capability, so that's the experience and capability of the founder and the team. And that's the impact, so demonstrating that you're able to contribute to the innovation ecosystem, and that we're looking to back companies that are really committed to growing Queensland, being part of the Queensland innovation ecosystem, giving back to the ecosystem here. And the value is the 3rd criteria. So that's about the plan that you've got to undertake to grow your business. So how are you going to use that funding? What activities are you going to undertake as part of your growth plan? So that could be employing people, it could be scaling the business in some other way, it could be expanding. So those are things that you can outline in your application. So the other thing to notice is once you go through that program, through that application process, you'll receive a provisional approval. And this is obviously a vital moment, because you'll be given that endorsement for the funding at that point in time, and you can ask for 50,000 to 200,000 through this program, and that's the grant allocation, that's non-dilutive grant funding. And then that allows you to raise between 150,000 and the framework is up to 600,000, but however, if you are able to raise more than that, then that's fantastic. So we don't obviously put an upper limit on how much you can raise, go for it. So just raise as much as you can, but that's the framework. So the grant is between $50,000 and $200,000 in non-dilutive grant funding. So once you're provisionally approved, you'll receive a letter. And that provisional approval letter will allow you to, that will give you 120 days to close your deal. So that's a really important moment. So you're able to use that letter and that endorsement to go about closing the round. And what we ask is that you make sure you can provide evidence within that 120 days that you have raised all the capital that you said you plan to, and that you have executed those shareholder agreements and received the funding. And so at that moment, that's when you can confirm, you show evidence of that information to the department, and you will enter into a grant agreement at that point. So I think that sort of allows you a bit of an overview of the program, and that gives you, once you enter into that grant agreement, you've got about 12 months, well, you will have a 12-month agreement to undertake your growth strategy for that time. So that's the sort of high-level information for the program. We did receive a few questions submitted in advance, so I'll do my best to try and answer them. But as I said, we've got really great documentation on the website, including really clear guidelines. We've got an application help guide, which answers a lot of the very specific questions that you might have for this program. A couple of questions that sort of came through was about existing investors. So we know that people will be at a point in their growth journey that they may have already received some investment. The point of this program is to support new investors coming in, because that's a growth inflection moment. So that's a moment where you can demonstrate that more people are coming on board to back your business. It's not the same people. So it is important that you are providing evidence that new people are backing you. I think another question was around the assessment period. We make a commitment to attempt to give you your provisional approval letter within 6 weeks. What might not be definite, but that's certainly what we aim to do, and that will hopefully be a fairly quick turnaround. I think you'll probably agree, in government terms that's pretty quick, and that will give you a bit of an opportunity to get on with closing that deal. So that's really good. The other thing is that sort of 3-to-1 ratio. So 3-to-1 is 3 from the investor side and 1 from the grant. So an example is $50,000 grant would be for a $150,000 raise, and similarly $100,000 grant would be for a $300,000 raise. So that's a bit of the framework. I think that covers most of the questions. The only other one that popped up was about single investors versus multiple investors. I think one of the things to remember with this program is that this is not really about someone who already has an investor committed and ready to go, but that's the end of the round. So we want to make sure that you can use this to lever and grow and build that round. So that's something just to keep in mind, that there's no sort of limit to how you kind of grow the round, but we want to make sure that they're all sophisticated investors, that they meet that requirement. And I think the only other thing that I would mention is that this program supports innovative companies. So the Female Founders Program in general, and this program specifically, is not about any business run by women. It's not about small businesses, of which there are many amazing small businesses. This is about those that sit in the innovation space, and that is actually quite a specific definition that we've included in the guidelines, and we've included on the a link to the ATO Innovation Principles test. So it's worth checking that, but really the important thing to note there is that innovative companies are high growth potential companies that are demonstrating that they are growing something that is scalable, that it's in an innovative industry and sector, and that it has the potential to really grow and scale on a high level. So I think that's just worth making note of that distinction.
We have one question in the chat for you.
Yes, can it be an existing question? The existing investor?
Down. Most of them have been answered.
Founder. So the founder is the question is, can you clarify what you mean by a founder regarding incorporation? So that's the person who's established the business at the point of incorporation. So when a business is established, that is when you register the business with ASIC and you register who the founders of that business are. So that's important to note. So it may be the company directors, but it doesn't have to be. So, and shareholders is a different thing again. So that's something worth noting. So just checking if there's any other questions to answer. I think Lauren has answered most of the questions. I think we're good. I'm going to pass back to Gigi. I think we've actually addressed most of the questions. The only other thing, actually, just before I do that, Gigi, we do have an email inbox for people to send us questions or ask clarification. So we're more than happy to address those specific questions. The information's been shared in the chat, but it's femalefounders@dtis.qld.gov.au. I'll just make sure there's no other questions that have just popped up. I think we're good. Okay, over to Gigi.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks very much. And thanks to everyone for attending the session today. It's great to have you online. We've recorded the session and we'll make that available on the Advance Queensland website in the coming days, and a link will be sent to everybody who registered to attend, whether you've been able to get along today or not. So if this program sounds like it might be right for your business, please make sure you read all the supporting documents on the website. The team have worked really, really hard to make sure that all the likely questions that you might have been answered. They've really brainstormed everything that they think you might come up with. But if you really do have a curly one you can't find the answer to, as Tina said, you can always contact the team via that email address, femalefounders@dtis.qld.gov.au, and we'll get back to you there as soon as we can. And if you are a Queensland female founder, we also invite you to join our LinkedIn group. That's been shared in the webinar chat too. So thanks for joining us today, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. We'll see you later.